Welcome back to Spine and Soul. I'm your host, Renata, and this is 5 Women, 1 Book, Real Talk. Before we dive in, this episode contains adult language, and yes, there may have been wine involved. Fair warning given. Today, we're continuing our journey through Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, a researcher who has spent more than 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. She believes vulnerability is not weakness, but is the birthplace of love, belonging, creativity, and change. I want to introduce you to my marvelous friends. Bronte, an engineer, horsewoman, writer, and a dreamer. Athena, also an engineer, wise and strong in her faith and friendship. Miss B, a nurse with a swift mind and a great heart. Sparks, an entrepreneur whose work spans theater, set design, and now caregiving. And there's me, Renata, a graduate student in mental health and a costume and jewelry designer. We are all dancers. And here we go.
Cheating. So here we are again. I love that you are all here. It's such a big deal.
Indeed.
Hey, Sparks, how you doing?
I'm excellent today. And how are you all?
Just painting.
I don't know. I'm all discombobulated. I'm really noticing that.
Hang on, brain.
And then it's bothering me because it feels vulnerable.
Because you have me on the brain?
No, not because I'm not in the brain, because I like somebody and my track record is so bad. I feel safe with this person. I enjoy his company. I have no compulsion to try and fix him, which is excellent. It's warm and gentle and sweet and intelligent, and I really like him. So my brain is going, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? What's wrong? Where's the red flags? Where's the red flags? And I found a small one, but it's not enough of one that really bothers me.
You know what she calls it in this chapter is called foreboding joy.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm.
Did you just write that?
She took notes.
6 hours ago.
See?
It doesn't matter when you read it.
How are you?
So you don't feel like you should be happy because
She's deflecting.
No, that was great. We'll get back to her in a minute. She's not allowing me to deflect. That's what's happening. That's good. We can call it that. No, I'm having the thing happy. I am afraid to feel hopeful because I have felt hopeful before. Yeah. And I haven't questioned it. And I've gotten myself into situations that became so emotionally painful that they almost killed me. And several times, not just once. So I don't. And I'm so happy in my life that even though I am looking for a companion, a male companion, I don't need one.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, huh. So it's a really good thing he's out of town for a week. Shh. Calm down a little bit.
So in those other situations, though, were you happy in your life when you met them?
No.
So maybe that's the difference this time. Because it matters less that it works out with this guy. Because you're happy. You already have what you need.
That is very true. I do have what I need. I'm happy. I have wonderful companionship.
You're in control.
Friends. I'm in control. I don't need anything. I'm also a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost 60 now. My kids are grown. They're fine. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes a difference. But still that feeling of there's little butterflies and all of that. And I'm like, last time, this really hurt. Yeah. Yeah. Even though I welcome that feeling, I remember what it led to.
I mean, I get it. It's definitely, it's resonating with me.
What part?
So I liked the chapter. I mean, I was slogging through chapter 3, which is so long, but I was like, oh yeah. I got a little irritated that she focused on men, to be honest. Like that doesn't apply to me.
But you're a person. And men are people.
Yes, they are. But this is not a men's group.
Well, that's true. So are you saying that If we study humanity and our own emotions, we must leave men out of it?
No, definitely not. Just for this. Because I've spent my whole life trying to fix men.
How's that working out for you?
You can clearly see how that's working out for me. I moved here for a man in a house.
Well, you have a house.
I do. I do not have that man, and I have to call that a good thing.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yep.
you do.
It is.
All things happen for a reason.
Yes.
Ugh.
People come into our life for a season, and whether it's for us or for them or whatever, but it's just a season. You move on.
Yep. This takes a while sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming real.
Uh-huh.
I like that section. But I like her lists, her bulleted lists. I like those best of all. Trying to find one.
I feel you. On page 116, believing that we're enough is the way out of armor. It gives us permission to take off the mask. The core of every strategy, and then she lists, I am enough, worthiness versus shame. I've had enough, boundaries versus one-upping and comparison. The showing up, taking risks, and letting myself be seen is enough. Engagement versus disengagement. So this just goes right back to being able to show up as yourself and having that be enough is something we talked about a few times, and how I still feel very odd about that. So for the last week, I have felt seen by somebody, appreciated by somebody, and wanted by somebody. And now today, I'm like, maybe that is it. Have I been real? I'm stuttering. Listen to me. I can't even say this correctly.
So I am happy in my life. I mean, I do wish I had a man for various reasons, labor being one of them. But I wouldn't make him do it alone. I like to do things together. So the togetherness is what I need from a relationship. But I also have been realizing that the life that I've built for myself here is too big for one person. I have some decisions to make when it comes time to sell my house because I don't have a partner, but I really need one.
Mm-hmm.
I can hire men to an extent, but I don't have a lot of extra money. I spent all of it on the horses. And going out and drinking.
Yeah, that's my major expense is going out with you guys.
Okay.
But it's worth it because it keeps my spirit alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more self-care than anything else, right? One of the reasons that I left my farm among many was that I could no longer afford to pay my farmhand to help me. And I did do a whole season by myself. It was so rough. I didn't have the energy to keep everything going. And the person that I thought was my partner left me suddenly with the farm, with a full load at school, and a mother who had just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he was supposed to be there. He had agreed to be with me for that year, and then we would figure out what to do after that. But he just left. And here I am. Right. And I did it. Things didn't turn out as good as they could because I just didn't have the help. However, I didn't have to argue with anybody about what had to be done, when it had to be done, why it had to be done. I didn't need to debate somebody who constantly wanted me to listen to what he had to say, respect what he had to say. 1 year.
The nerve.
I was just like, so he would start describing something to me like, oh, well, have you thought about, I said, oh yeah, many times. Doesn't work. Let's move on. And then he'd say, why can't you just listen? I said, you understand that I have ADHD, right? I've already extrapolated every single thing that you could say following that sentence into 5 different things, remembered all the experiences I had with it, all the information I need, and we don't need to talk about it at all. Next.
I said, I feel that to my core.
If the only reason that you are listening to a man is that he demands that you do so, I don't want to listen to him anymore.
Well,
Person.
well,
We all.
legitimate enough, you may not want to. I'm going to play devil's advocate. Is it possible he's simply trying to share an idea? However, would it be beneficial to allow someone to feel respected by simply listening? Never the
No.
two shall meet.
Right. So this brings us back to me being hopeful now, is that I would like to have a person, and gender doesn't really matter. I just happen to be heterosexual. So there you go. I would like to have a person that I can talk to, that we can go back and forth in conversation, and the conversation flows and it's natural.
And he never said stupid shit.
No, he can say stupid shit. And I can too. But at least there's like a back and forth and a conversation and
That's helpful.
an interest, right? Like, oh yeah. Instead of,
Berating you.
or just me having to sit there for 10 minutes. And I have ADHD, as I've stated before. Do you know how that drives me nuts? I'm just supposed to sit there and listen. I don't have something to play with. I don't have a fidget spinner. I'll wash the windows. You talk. Like, I can't. So what does it say about where there is respect being demanded from me, which I will gratefully give, but there's no respect for my tolerance for that?
That gets into the realm of healthy versus unhealthy versus dysfunctional.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's where you have to delve in. But that's a specific case by case. Yeah.
Now back to the book.
So I understand that Bronte said that she didn't entirely appreciate that this chapter was about men.
Part of it.
For me, as a mother of boys, I really did. She says, Brené Brown says, this section is about what I've learned about women, men, how we hurt each other, and how we need each other to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that men and women are equally affected by shame. That the messages and expectations are organized by gender, but the experience of shame is universal and deeply human. And there are so many things that we share that are universal and deeply human. And I think that gender clouds the issues a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's less important than we say it is.
She makes a comment on page 95 where at the end of the next to last paragraph, she said, there was a moment when I was driving home from an interview with a small group of men and thought, holy shit, I am the patriarchy. And I circled that because after reading through her explanations, I thought, wow, I can relate to that. Having the desire that a male partner would be open and communicative and able to discuss feelings, but then at the same time be able to assert himself to maintain control and leadership and headship and move and make decisions and be, for the most part, unbothered and finding myself at any one point in time when I got either of those, finding a reason to be dissatisfied. Not consciously, but whether it's expectations, whether it's, I don't have any one scenario in mind. However, I would agree with your point that the gender roles or expectations, probably worldwide, depending on the culture you're looking at, we would all be heavily steeped in those. Oh, yeah. But the differences in expectations would differ depending on culture, obviously. Mm-hmm. So being raised here in the South and as a Christian and being raised in the church, gender roles were a big deal. Expectations then I felt them at a young age, not only in church, but also in family of origin. That dictated who I thought I was supposed to be, how I thought I was supposed to show up. And for a long time, living through marriage and children and trying to fit a mold versus living as who I was. Mm-hmm. What I'm meaning is living wholeheartedly, okay? Which means you're also seeking to grow as a person. You're seeking to do well by yourself and those around you. You're seeking to not live a self-serving life, right? But loving and giving to those around you as well. That can be a fine line between fitting a mold versus living authentically. She also makes a comment on page 109. She said one of the most powerful ways that our shame triggers get reinforced is when we enter into a social contract based on these gender straitjackets. And she said our relationships are defined by women and men saying, I'll play my role and you play yours. I think play is a really important word there. One of the patterns revealed in this research was how all that role playing becomes almost unbearable around midlife.
Yeah. You're becoming more authentically yourself, but
Yes.
you fit.
Right. It says men feel increasingly disconnected and the fear of failure becomes paralyzing. And she said, remembering that shame is the fear of disconnection. On down at the end of that paragraph, the expectations and messages that fuel shame keep us from fully realizing who we are as people. And I put a question. I said, so who are we as people? Who are we collectively and individually?
So our young dancing friend has really been talking a lot about selfishness lately. And he is like, well, anything that I want for myself is inherently selfish. I don't think that that's necessarily true.
Not at all.
I love how he plays with these deep concepts. Very interesting and a very young man. So I use the example of a tree. There's this tree out here that is deep into the earth, and it is pulling all these nutrients and water and everything from the earth, and it is growing itself into a tree. It is doing that because it has this life force that everything living has, that we see, that is just this miracle to me. When it's doing that, it is living for itself, and yet it is creating an entire environment underneath its roots.
Right.
It's changing the soil underneath the tree. There's squirrels that live in its branches. There's birds that come and perch. The leaves fall down and nourish the earth again. It's this whole cycle. So every single thing that we do when we're living authentically for ourselves nourishes everybody around us, nourishes our tribe, our communities, the earth. And he was not convinced.
No.
Very interesting.
Well, I'll add in a scripture that's coming to my mind. It's in Revelation. I don't know where exactly, but it talks about the fruit of the tree being for the healing of the nations. It's not the fruit that sustains the tree, right?
Yeah.
It's everything you've just described that is pulled in and accepted and realized and integrated into the tree where it lives and moves and has its being. And then the fruit is produced. And whatever comes out is for the healing and service of those immediately around.
Right. So by living your most authentic life with joy, you become more.
Joy, not perfection.
Right.
Yes.
Joy, not perfection.
Yeah.
And you become more, and you're less cut off. You have less disengagement because you can engage with people around you, and that just makes everything better.
Right.
You know, I often remember the smile that Athena gave me the second time we met. She had made room for me at the table.
Yep.
And so I saved you a seat.
Right.
And I went, oh, okay. And I sat down. And then from then on, that became where I sat.
Yeah.
And I still.
You belonged.
That's where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
So it's just a very willingness to look at somebody else and say, hi, who are you? And be present for that.
In the becoming, in the fruitfulness, in the becoming, in the natural, just being who you are, there are so many choices to be made on that road because none of us know innately who we are, right?
Do you think that's why around midlife, the masks that we wear, the gender roles that we have become unbearable? We're stretching them. We're outgrowing them.
I will say, on the road to becoming our authentic selves, that road is filled with choices to engage or disengage. And the challenge that I personally have felt as we've been reading this and I've been able to enact in my relationships is noticing my habitual pattern of when I am stressed, whether it's feeling insecure, whether it's a time constraint, I'm feeling pulled in 1,000 directions, my response is to pull in. What I do with that does matter. am I going to pull in that will further let me feel shame, further disconnect me? Or I'm going to take some courage and I'm going to ask myself, do I want to be a person who does ABC or CDEFGH, whatever, right?
You can be both those people. Hang on, I'm going to interject just for a minute because the
Do you
other
have
day,
to?
yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The other day, when I was feeling this vulnerable, scared little girl who was worried about being rejected because she'd stepped out, was a little bit bold,
Right.
and I sent this flirty text to a
Right.
boy I liked,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't answer me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that logically that everything was fine,
Yeah.
but I had to put that somewhere. And
Okay.
so I texted you. I
Yeah.
called you
Yeah.
and had this discussion because I knew that I could be vulnerable that way and that you would understand completely.
Yeah.
And then 40 minutes later, I got my answer and everything was fine.
So,
I chose to be an adult
mhm.
with this man that I'm trying to get to know.
Right.
And I let my little girl call my
Mhm.
girlfriend.
Right. I'm either going to continue to choose a pattern that is going to keep me locked here. And if this is who I want to be, that's all well and good. But if I want to choose something different, then I've got to act something different.
You do.
Yeah.
But we can only move so far
Mhm.
from the center of how we were created. You can watch your patterns and you can see who you are and you can shift it. You can act differently about it. But you're still going to be that core person that was formed by your childhood, your parents, all of those things. And it's wonderful to embrace that person,
Mhm.
to love that unique person as they are.
Mhm.
So you want to be careful not to think that you need to shift everything about yourself. You don't.
Nope.
At all.
Nope. But if I get a clear vision
Mm-hmm.
that I want to be a person who does not let insecurity control my life. Not that I don't have insecurity.
Control. Right.
But I don't live by that pulling the reins.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to have to make choices that will lessen its power. That's what I mean.
Right here, she talks about conformity to feminine norms, being willing to stay as small, sweet, and quiet as possible, and use our time and talent to look pretty. None of us are going to do that. We're all feminine women. So that's an outdated concept of femininity.
But I have done that.
But I've lived it.
Yeah, the majority of my life.
Probably me less. But I mean, I still have. But
You less feminine than us?
Lived it less.
Oh. I was
Yeah.
like, I look at you and think that you are so much more feminine than I am.
Oh, no, not at all. But
Absolutely.
that's, yeah, because I think you're a very beautiful feminine woman. Well, it's not just how you look. All of it. I was raised in a culture that was much less gender conforming than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother
Yeah.
was very feminine and didn't think I was. So I just didn't have that.
Right.
But
It's almost like you kind of were, given the demerit from the beginning before you even tried. So
I was actually, here's the turnaround. I was shamed for wanting to get married and have babies and stay home. That because I no longer had to do that, I shouldn't do that. And I said, well, wait a minute. Weren't we given a choice? So you're going to flip one choice for the other? That now, because we can decide not to have children, we can have a career, that because I want to stay home and have babies, there's something wrong with me? When did that happen?
Right. It's coming to my mind that I was taught to have the appearance of femininity. You dress a certain way, you fix your hair, whatever, you look a certain way. But I was not taught, or I was taught against loving the part of my femininity that represents a soft heart.
So,
a sensitive heart.
But it's such a big part of you.
It's a huge part of me. But so it's like you have the look, but by God, you're going to do things because they need to be done, and we're not going to cry about it. You're going to get it done. And that's it. But you're going to look a certain way when you do it. So that's an odd little bit of a paradox.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, we
Yeah.
grew. We we grew up, like my mom and my dad, they were hippies basically, but not far out there hippies. They were just kind of hippie-ish, I would say. My mom was the youngest, and she had older sisters. And they all had these ideas because, they matured and became adults in the 60s, that they could and should have a life that wasn't motherhood and housekeeping. Well, my mom got pregnant and stayed home, and that cut off her path of where she was headed. And so she was bound and determined that her daughter was not going to be cut off from the path that she had wanted. So I wasn't raised so much with a choice. It was, college was never a question mark. It was a given. It was expectation. It was career is necessary. Mary Tyler Moore was one of the best sitcoms on TV at the time. And Mary Tyler Moore was my role model, right?
Yeah.
She was alone. She was single. She had a career. She dated guys. But couldn't find the right guy. Didn't need a man. And it was just the whole thing, the whole generation. And so then I had a daughter, and I wanted, yes, college was still an expectation for my daughter.
It's a good expectation to have.
You need to go through. I know way too many people in my lifetime, women that I was friends with at my age, at whatever age I was at, that regretted not finishing, regretted not getting that when they were young. It would have been so much easier if I'd done that when I was young. And I said, yes, because we're able to support you and you can do it and you got the smarts to do it. Now, if she had had different talents, I would have pushed her some other direction, but she academically smart. And it's like, no, you're going to go, you're going to finish, and then you get to choose. Then you have choices.
Thank you for joining us on episode 3 of Spine and Soul. We hope our conversations about daring greatly inspires you to lean into vulnerability, practice brave connection, and keep growing alongside your people. We will continue where we left off on the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and share. It helps other people find our circle. Follow us on Renata Recovery for episode notes, resources, and the reading schedule. You want to join the conversation? Email us at journeysrenata@gmail.com or leave a comment with your thoughts and questions. We may read them on the show. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching Renata Recovery or searching for Spine and Soul. Spine and Soul, this has been 5 Women with 1 Book and Real Talk. Goodbye for now.